order at 7. And I know there's a ball game that you guys would like to get to, so we're gonna do this efficiently. All right, if everyone would raise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first on the agenda is the roll call. Let the minutes show that 4 board members are present, with Kyle Art being absent. Next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I'll make it. First by Heather. Discussions or questions? Is there a second? Second by Stacy. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 4. Moving into informational items. First is a spotlight report. Dr. Baker and the Walton City Council.
Board members, as you may, can everyone hear me okay? Can everyone hear me? As you may be aware, we have been the very fortunate recipients of the generosity of our city council. I've been considering doing something special for our school district to recognize partners in our community who make an exceptional contribution to the success of our schools, our students, and our staff. And I can think of no better opportunity than tonight in recognizing members of our city council, members of city government. I've prepared a written statement which I will read, and we will go from there. The City of Walton received funding through the Federal CARES Act to support local businesses during the economic downturn that resulted from the coronavirus epidemic. Several local businesses applied for and received funds from our city government through this process. However, some CARES Act funding remained after these allocations were made to our local businesses. Mayor Brown and our city council members, along with the CARES Act Committee Chair, John Wainwright, were considerate enough to provide these remaining funds to our school district in accordance with federal guidelines. As a result of this, our school district received $46,265 from the City of Walton. These funds were used to purchase 125 Chromebooks, which are on the table here in the Commons. These Chromebooks will help us fulfill the goals set in our one-to-one initiative, and will enable us to further support our students during this pandemic. Partnership between Walton Vernon Independent Schools and the City of Walton is not only mutually beneficial for both entities, it is critical to our continued success and prosperity in this community. On behalf of the Board of Education, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Mayor Brown, the Walton City Council members, and CARES Act Committee Chair John Wainwright. So tonight, for the first time, I'm presenting a small token of our appreciation, our Tradition of Excellence Awards. So those council members, those individuals that were able to make it tonight, if you wouldn't mind to step over in front of the computers and I'll come over and we'll get some pictures. City Council Member Bobby McDonald, City Council Member Howard Stevens, and CARES Act Committee Chair John Wainwright. And am I correct that no other members have been able to make it tonight?
Dan Martin.
Sorry?
Dan Martin.
Dan Martin. Mr. Martin, I apologize. I didn't get to see you. I apologize. I would like to say that the council members that are not here with us this evening, I have invited them to our board meeting in March. So hopefully they will be able to make it at that time. And we have a student here with us this evening, Emma Falk. Emma's going to get some pictures for us. So thank you for being here, Emma.
You have to hold your awards.
John, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for coming. At this point, if you would like to leave, I'll let you exit that way. If you want to stay, you're more than welcome.
People love you.
Love you. You don't do enough on your own? Okay, thank you, Emma. I appreciate that. Well, good. We have an audience now. We never really have an audience. Thanks, guys.
We have one YouTube follower.
And that's your daughter.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's John. Okay, next we're going to move into the principal's report. Luke?
Right, I got on this month's report some good news that I was able to share with you guys after getting some of our testing stuff. If you had a chance to kind of look through those graphs. As we've been talking about, we did anticipate at the elementary school seeing maybe some of our proficiency scores kind of take a little bit of a hit. As a result of the pandemic, we especially anticipated seeing that in our youngest students when it comes to reading, just because it's very difficult to do that instruction virtually. And then we thought we might see something a little bit when it comes to math in terms of that as well. We did see that, but the good news is what we are seeing in the fall compared to what we're seeing in the winter is that we are certainly making up some lost ground. I know in the past I've talked with the board about that conditional growth percentile metric that MAP offers. So far for this year, with second, third, and fourth grade compared to the last 2 years, in both math and reading, 5 out of the 6 conditional growth percentile metrics that we have is the highest that we've had since we've really been kind of tracking that at a league level. And to me, that means we're kind of making up some lost ground there. So I was really, really thrilled about that. And then down below that, we moved to Ames Web for kindergarten and first grade. I don't have historical data to compare that to because this is our first year using it on a large scale like we are using it, but they do offer a metric that's very similar to conditional growth percentile, which is called the student growth percentile. And you can see down there, I don't have that in kindergarten, but I do have it for first grade. We're running at the 75th percentile in both math and reading. And out of all the students that we have at the elementary school, the ones that I worry about the most are our most youngest students. So when I saw that growth number, I was pretty excited about that. I was also pretty excited about the percentile rankings that they were running in both reading and in math. So I think things are looking good. I like the direction that we're going, and I really appreciate the board's support for us being able to go back to 5 days a week next week. That's about 2 weeks worth of instructional time if we consider running out through the end of the school year. So I'm excited to see what our teachers could do with that time, especially considering what they've been up against this year. To see these kind of numbers playing out, I couldn't be happier with the work that my teachers are putting in for this. The other part is, I think last time I talked to you all when we were looking at how many students we had on our virtual instruction, we were pushing a little over 60 students, hovering right around 60%. Next week, with us moving into 5 days a week, we contacted families individually that were virtual instruction and explained to them, hey, we are going to have a little bit of a shift on March 1st. What would you like to do? And that number's dwindled down. As of right before I left today, it was down to 43. So we're just a little bit over 6% in terms of our student body that are opting to do virtual, and the rest of them are opting to come in person. So again, with those 10 or so additional Fridays that we're going to have with them in person, plus having a few more of our kids in the building, I'm very excited about our closeout for the fourth quarter of this school year. That's all I have from elementary school. Any questions for me?
I had a question. I noticed on our personnel, it was all subs. At the bottom of your report, we stated that we hired a teacher to do the virtual.
Yes.
Who did we hire? Because I didn't see the name on there.
Yeah, I could say that name. Her name is Morgan Simpson.
Oh.
So she is actually a Walt Vernon alum. She just graduated from the University of Kentucky in December with a degree in elementary education. She did her student teaching in Fayette County, which has been exclusively virtual for this entire year. I honestly don't think we could have found a better fit to have somebody run that. She's able to hit the ground running. WVISD has been phenomenal getting the stuff set up for her before she comes in. Today, I spent the entire day with Morgan going around and working with all of our grade level teachers to get them acquainted with one another, make sure that she has the resources that she needs. And then tomorrow, as well into next week, she's going to be working with Tracy Gazika to make sure that that transition happens kind of smoothly. But I'm very excited about having her on board for this.
I think that would be a great fit.
Yeah, we're excited. Anything else?
Anything else? Okay, thank you, Luke.
Thanks.
Good evening. What I have for you, we're not 100% done. When I ran these reports, we still probably have a couple dozen students, but we've got pretty much all of our math testing done. But I'm sharing with you similar to what I shared with you from our fall data. The only difference in the first chart, back in the fall, I compared them to last year's kids just to see where previous year's kids, so it wasn't the same kids. This is comparing the same kids to the same kids. So it shows you what the average grid score was when they were in the grade prior. So fifth graders, that winter of 2020 is when they were in fourth grade and so on. So kind of what we've seen, reading is not taken as big of a hit with the instruction the way it's been as math. And we see that. The positive here is every content area, reading and math in each grade level made growth. There was no negative recession with reading or math, so I was very happy with that. We're showing in our math mostly, and in our youngest grade, fifth grade, we didn't make the growth that was expected, and that's something we're going to have to work on, but it wasn't, it's not all horrible news. I mean, you can see fifth grade, while they didn't meet the growth expectancy, they were above the national norm. We look at that as well. I know that we don't like to look at just the national norm, but during a pandemic, that national norm is still the same. That's based on a linking study from 2019. So it's a mixed bag. I mean, we've got some areas where we met the growth, but the average RIT score, or we're close to the growth, but the average RIT score wasn't where it should be. So the numbers can be a little deceiving at times, but overall, we made growth. Reading made growth mostly across the board the way they should have. So our teachers were working hard with the restrictions of the pandemic. But we are very excited at 4 days a week. Doubling our in-person instruction is going to be important because we do have a lot of pockets where our kids are behind. When I look at the MAP data and compare it to K-Prep, like Luke said, our proficient distinguished numbers in any area aren't where we normally expect them. But what's interesting, we've just got a lot of kids in that apprentice type area, and we're able to individually identify those and continue to target those students to try to bump them up. Like in math, our novice predictions are not really that bad. There's just a lot of kids in apprentice, so then the proficient distinguished numbers aren't the same. And even reading our proficient distinguished, but it is mid-year, so remember that this is a mid-year check, not an end-of-year check. So I expect that we will make some nice growth in the next 3 months. But I don't want my teachers to think, or I don't want anybody else to think that we're going to make up all the loss in the next 3 months. But I think we're going to make up a lot of it. I mean, I don't know if there's enough study out there yet to say how long it's going to take us. But I do believe our kids are in a lot better spot than probably other kids in and around the state and country. But a lot of work still to do. There are definitely gaps, especially in math. But I've listened to a couple of NWEA, the company that owns MAP, and they're seeing that across the country. So the fact that we've made growth in each area is a good positive, because there's places they're making negative scores right now. So. And again, I gave you the chart on the percentile drops, kids that dropped 11 to 20 percentile points and things, and those are up a little bit in some areas. Through the narrative of that report, we will continue to attack that through targeted services on Fridays, which is one of the things that we wanted to keep to be able to give that extra support. And we are still doing ESS 2 days a week, and we've gotten that back up and running. So just really excited to get the kids in for 4 days. I think we're going to see a big difference, because again, the spring growth, this doesn't even take into account the growth that they're supposed to make from winter to spring. So we'll see where that's at when we give it, probably towards the end of April. Questions?
How many students are staying virtual at the middle school?
I ran that yesterday and I want to give you the exact numbers. I had it pulled up on my email here.
I have it here, Mr. Morwell. So at the middle school, it's 84 students, which is 15.7% of our enrollment. But please keep in mind.
I'm sorry, what was the percentage?
15.
Yeah, 15.7%. Now keep in mind, please, these numbers change almost every day. We have students enroll, we have students withdraw, and we have students move to virtual, and we have students move away from virtual. So these numbers do fluctuate, but as of right now at the middle school, it's 84 students, 15.7%. And since we're on the topic, at the high school, it's higher. It's 125 students, which is 23.9% as of today.
And we have about a dozen students at the middle school we haven't heard from, and we were working on phone calls here this week still just to try to get a hold of them. So there were approximately 12 students that are all virtual that we haven't heard from. So, but it's about 85% in person and 15%. Our biggest is, our smallest group is 7th grade of like 126 kids, and they've got 30 of them on virtual. So that's about almost, I think, 25% of their kids are on all virtual. But all the other grade levels are pretty comparable, anywhere between like 15 and 20.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Math has always been concerning, and we're below national average on all these. So what is the math team's game plan? Do they have, besides coming back 2 more days a week, what's the game plan to ramp this up to catch the kids up? Or obviously 6th going to need to know at 5th where they're at. Like, what's the game plan moving forward?
So obviously we've got the next 3 months of 4 days in person, and what the math teachers have been doing over the last year and a half is really working on their instruction compared to content mastery. And of course that's been difficult over the last 11 months, but the plan is at the end of this school year, not only the middle school, we've talked district-wide about doing some vertical alignment with our grade levels to make sure we can kind of really pinpoint some of the skills that kids have missed, and it's not, math is going to be the most important area because that's where everybody's seeing the most lack of growth, where the kids have seemed to have lost the most. So there's got to be a lot of work done in June and July before we can come back in August to look at that. We've talked about district-wide even using a day or 2 of those planning days to let teachers at all levels vertically get together and discuss some of that. But our teachers are going to be looking at it as soon as we get our spring map data, and that's going to be a part of our PD for next school year, which we'll do over the summer.
Also, if board members, once we get to the other portion of the agenda, I have some notes for lines that I think will help us address some issues that have occurred as a result of the pandemic.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else?
We know it's hard, and it is good to see that even though the growth isn't where we want it to be, we are seeing growth. And then, did you say the 7th grade was the highest percentage or the lowest percentage of
7th grade has the highest percentage of all virtual students. They have all year, and they still do.
I see they have met the expected difference growth for math. So interesting, just an interesting side note that the population with the highest percentage of home learners is meeting the goal.
We have focused a lot on our younger grade levels in math and really worked with those teachers, and those teachers have been stepping up, and the teacher that we have in 7th grade has been phenomenal over the last 3 or 4 years. And but you know, even look at 8th grade, that teacher's always got good results, and they're struggling there. So while we know the growth isn't where we want, I am very optimistic with the growth that we've seen, because we haven't always seen that in all areas in the past. We've actually seen a decline, and that's one of the things that we've been attacking for the last 18 months, even in the midst of a pandemic, is getting that growth heading in the right direction. And so that's probably what I'm happiest about, is we're starting to see that growth in the right direction. We just want to maintain that, because those teachers really have bought into some of the things we've asked them to do, and our math specialist has really been vital in that role as well.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. One of the big things that we have coming up at the high school, just like the middle school, is the merge of our A-Day and B-Day group together. So one of the things that I wanted to ensure is that it was portrayed in a light as a milestone, a positivity mark that we've made. And one of the things that we did is I treated it very much like, I grew up watching this show, Survivor. And the 2 tribes have come together, we've merged. It's a point towards normalcy. So we were sure to celebrate that as making to the merge. We do have the numbers in. Our numbers of in-school versus virtual, we want some kids back. We have some kids, more kids coming back than that were on virtual prior to the announcement. So I am happy about that. But like Dr. Baker mentioned, those numbers are switching back and forth all the time. So I was very deliberate in how we approached the merge, and I'm happy to say that the teachers are excited. Every kid that I've talked to in the classroom is excited to be back, excited to be here with their friends. They're excited to combine those two lunch groups together and get new seats and sit next to their friends. So we're excited about that. Just to give you an idea, in this cafeteria, our biggest lunch group will be 126 kids, the way we break it down. So it's very manageable. We can keep the kids safe and distanced through there. The parents of the high school students, you would have received an email earlier this week about March 9th being our state ACT test. We're going to do things a little bit different this year to ensure that spacing is have our students in the juniors will be in the gym taking the official ACT, and our sophomores will be in the classrooms taking that mock ACT, and our freshmen and seniors will be virtually learning those days to give us the space and the proctors to do that. And then on April 1st, we're going to flip. The freshmen and seniors will be in the building. Our freshmen will take their version of the mock ACT, and our seniors, two different groups of seniors. We'll have seniors that will be taking their end-of-program assessment for career and tech ed to gain that classification as transition ready through that test. Our other group of seniors will be the seniors that are taking the Coyote test at the end of the school year. So we're going to bring those seniors in and give them some targeted remediation supports, one-on-one sessions with the content teachers to make sure that they are ready for that test in the last couple weeks of the school year. So we're excited to get those numbers back. That mock ACT data comes back to us in under a week. And then we will have broke down to not just sentence structure, but use of commas is where we are weak at or where we are strong at. So we can get those numbers back to the teachers. They can put that into their lesson plans and make immediate impacts with their instruction as little as a week after they get that, the kids take the test and they get that data back. So we're excited to have that data point to be able to compare, like you heard through the map testing, but also to give those content standards to our teachers so they can begin to fix and correct any errors that there are. And this week, early this week, they announced K-Prep testing will move forward. So we have our grade 10 students will be taking a reading and a math test. Grade 11 will be taking the science on demand and a field test in history. And any student that takes a K-Prep test will also take the climate, quality of school climate and safety survey, which will go into our accountability as well. So half of our school will be taking that climate and culture survey. The freshmen and seniors will not take it because they do not have a K-Prep test. So only 50% of the students will have input on that. So, and at the bottom, I included some dates, including the school play for you. Any questions from the board? All right.
No,
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Big one.
All right, for preschool, we have added a couple of First Step students, so we have 77 students with us right now. We followed the same procedures as everyone else, and we did reach out to our virtual students, even though starting next week we're not really making any changes. But 2 of those did decide to return to in-person instruction, so that just leaves us with 5 virtual students. At the preschool right now, we're busy preparing for transition to kindergarten. We have 46 students that are going to be going to the elementary, so we are doing our transition meetings. And in preparing for next year, we have scheduled our first round of screenings. They are May 25th and 26th. That information is now on the preschool website, and families can sign up whether they're interested in the preschool program or the tuition program. They would need to sign up for a screening, and that can be done online, and we will contact them and get started for next year. So that's all I have. Do you guys have any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Rob?
For the month of February, we had a relatively light month on news and that sort of thing. Our numbers are basically static from last month. I will point out next month we're going to have one graduate for sure, and maybe even two. Those two seniors that you see up there at the top, they're very close. So we'll be excited about that next month. For this month, everybody else has commented on their numbers of students who are virtual, so I thought, kind of as an aside, I would do the same. We've got 3 students out of our population here that are all virtual and being directed by Mike and Tom while they're at home. And they're doing their work at a pace that's sufficient for what our expectations are there, and seem to be progressing. So. All in all, things are still going pretty well, so we'll look forward to our report for next month. It should be a good one. Any questions?
I love to see the celebrations, even small milestones. I think are fantastic. And I've said this before, but it's just so refreshing to constantly see good news and lots of progress, and students that seem to be happy, and parents that are relatively happy with the services that they're receiving. So, great job.
Couldn't agree more. I think it's a good learning environment, and it seems to have come a long way since the old days. So.
Very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Next is the construction report, Jeremy.
The construction report is pretty light. We're basically just wrapping up all the construction projects from the previous.
Jeremy, can you pull that some? I can't hear you with your mask in. Or whatever.
Sorry, we're just closing up some of the projects from last year's with all the BG4s. Not a lot going on that. I'm working on some summer project lists, just stuff that we have to do to get ready for the next year. Hopefully have a meeting next week or the week after with Dr. Baker, about that, see where we get from there. The damage assessment, they told me they'd be out next week. They only have about $2,000 to $3,000 worth of work to do, and I have about $65,000 in their money. So hopefully that's an incentive to finish. It would be for me. Other than that, there's really nothing else going on. Do you all have any questions for me? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Next, Rob, participation and enrollment report.
As you can see, we're up a few students. We're up 4 for this month over last. But our participation percentages continue to be above 90, and in the middle school and high school case, even close to 100. So we're happy with that. And as Matt pointed out, we do continue to see folks leaving us for various reasons, and but we've also got several coming in. In fact, I was just doing home visits on two more folks, 2 more families today. So it's still very active out there right now. Any questions about the attendance report?
Do we have any idea with the growth that we anticipate between Aosta Valley and then out on Eads Road? I know it's kind of hard to predict, but do we have any?
I have.
In terms of lots and
Yeah,
numbers of kids
lots
they're going to bring, yeah.
There's lots of them going up. I'm just interested if we.
I do not have any data on the development of the East Road, but I do have data from Boone County Zoning and Planning that pertains to Aosta Valley and Lafayette Road. And I'll include it in Friday, I think, tomorrow.
Okay.
Both subdivisions are estimate half to 2/3 of what they will be additional. So, and I'll try to find some data on the development of each road. At the very least, how many lots are out there and how many houses are currently under construction.
Okay, thanks.
And we've also got the lots at the back of the Lost Creek subdivision as well.
At where?
Lost Creek and, the other street name
I
is
think it's called
escaping.
New Point or something like that.
North Point.
Oh,
thank you.
North Point.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yes, okay, yeah.
Yeah, out that way too. That continues to sprawl as well. So, yeah, we can, Matt and I can work on that tomorrow. Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Next is the personnel. Did everybody get a chance to look at that?
Board members, just very quickly, I would like to point out, we're hiring 7 substitute teachers. That's been an emphasis for quite some time, and we believe it's due to 2 reasons. Number one is that, we made the gesture to help pay some of the expenses for someone to get on the sub list, as well as the process that we have to use through the KSP is a little more efficient than the process we used in the past, so it doesn't take as long to get on the sub list. So we're very happy to see those 7 names in your first report.
Questions? Next is the superintendent's expense report for January of 2021. Anyone have any questions? Next is other. Dr. Baker.
Okay, first of all, I would like to just kind of thank and brag on our principals and all of our supervisors. I'm sure that everyone has seen what we're doing now with something called shout-outs. I begin every administrative meeting with a few shout-outs to folks. It's a simple postcard where I want to acknowledge their contributions or special efforts. And Mr. Warwessel actually had the idea to make that district-wide. So we now have an icon on our district webpage where community members can, or employees or students can recommend an employee for a shout-out. And the response to that has been pretty significant. You've seen some pictures of folks receiving their shout-outs, and what we will do is at the end of the month, we'll put all the names of the people who received a shout-out that month, and we'll draw a name out and give that person just a small token of our appreciation. But our principals, our supervisors have done a wonderful job the last several months doing special things for their staff. I'm sure you saw pictures of some Valentines being handed out, a little bit late due to weather, but some things being given to our staff just to keep everyone, in a positive frame of mind. So just want to thank our principals and our supervisors for that. The crux of what I wanted to share with you this evening is some good news. We are, and I want to be clear, when we talk about gaps or a loss of learning, that is in no way, shape, or form an indictment on our staff, our parents, or our kids. Everyone is doing the best job that they can do during some very difficult circumstances, and while how we have handled this pandemic has certainly not been perfect, we've learned some valuable lessons, and I would put our work up against the work in any other districts. Our staff has done a wonderful job, so are our parents and our kids. Having said that, the data indicates that gaps are occurring, and there's been a loss of learning. Through no one's fault in particular, it's just a result of the pandemic. So, like the CARES Act funding I referred to earlier, our school district has received some funding through the elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund. If you hear the term ESSER, that is the fund I'm referring to. This money originated with the federal government, and Kentucky received an allocation of $900 million through this fund. Of that $900 million, the Kentucky Department of Education was allowed to take 10% of that money as a set-aside, or $90 million off the top, hold at KDE. The remaining $810 million was allocated directly to school districts using the Title I formula. What that means is school districts with an exceptionally high free reduced lunch rate receive significantly greater allocation than those districts who do not have a high free reduced lunch percentage. There are some districts in Kentucky, a lot of districts in Kentucky, that received allocations in the millions of dollars. We received $560,000 here's the key. If we spend 85% of that $560,000 on direct services to students, then we have the opportunity to apply for a share of that $10 million that was set aside at KDE. Obviously, we intend to do that. That set aside of $90 million will be allocated on the basis of $75 per student according to our ADA in 2018-19. Essentially what that means is we spend 85% of the $560,000 on direct services to kids, then we can get an additional $120,000. Okay? So with these funds, obviously there are certain things we can spend this money on, certain things we cannot spend this money on. We have two goals. Number one is to begin addressing gaps in learning that have appeared as a result of the pandemic. Our second goal is to use any remaining funds to help us cover additional costs we've incurred as a result of the pandemic. For example, our food service account is deeply in the red because we've had meal deliveries, we've been offering meals to kids since last March. That has proved quite a balance, so we can use this money to cover that cost. We've upgraded our facilities. I don't claim to be an expert in this, but Jeremy, was some type of reverse ionization system in our HVAC system, correct?
Yeah, there's a rooftop unit.
Okay, so personal protective equipment. We can use this money for that. So last week I met with district office staff. We put together a rough outline of what we can do with this money to provide services to our kids. Tomorrow, we are including principals and all the supervisors in that discussion. Now, we have a work session scheduled for March the 11th. Okay? I'll be sharing our detailed plans with you for this money on March the 11th. Essentially, what we're planning on doing are offering a lot of services to our students over the summer. Obviously, it is summer, this is optional, but we will try to do things that entice our students to come to the schools. We're currently looking at 3 separate sessions, one in June, one in July, one in early August. Parents can choose one of these 3 or all 4. Okay? To help us begin to get caught back up. But again, I will share detailed plans with you at our meeting on March the 11th. So to share with you how we're going to use this money to get our kids caught back. Okay? The last thing I'll say is this: we're all excited about our students coming back on a more frequent basis next week. But everyone needs to be aware, and I've spoken to several teachers, principals about this, and tomorrow I'll send a message to the entire staff. We have to treat the next 2 weeks as if they were the first 2 weeks of the school year. We have to be very intentional about teaching procedures, routines, things of that nature. If we don't do that, then things can get a little chaotic on us as we get into the spring, and that's normal. It is normal for folks to get restless in the spring. But considering what's happened over the last 12 months, we have to be really intentional about teaching, how do we do things in the middle, as if it were the first few days of the school year. The second thing I'm going to stress to people is that instruction has to look different. We cannot have students spend 4 or 5 days a week in our schools and then go home and ask mom and dad to just sign them up on virtual because all they do in school is walk in and get out their Chromebooks. Instruction has to look different, and our staff has to understand that. Now, I'm not going to be prescriptive and tell teachers exactly what that needs to look like, but I am going to stress those Chromebooks that we've purchased are a wonderful tool. It's been an intention of ours to catch up to some surrounding districts and close that digital divide. We've begun to do that, in part thanks to our city council, but we cannot become so dependent upon those things that there's virtually no difference between attending school in person or staying home. Instruction has to look different. So we're going to stress that with our teachers. We've been doing that this week, but you will see more of that discussion or those talking points coming directly from me. So As of February 23rd, 166 of 171 school districts have returned to in-person instruction. By March the 15th, 65 school districts will be in session either 4 or 5 days a week. Of the northern Kentucky districts, there are a couple that have been in session. The others are returning on March the 1st, like we are, with a couple coming into that, returning on March the 8th or the 11th. So our schools are starting to open back up. Just please understand, we're going to make every effort to make sure that it's a good experience for our kids and get the maximum benefit from that return.
Do you have any questions for Dr. Baker? Moving on to audience of citizens, is there anyone? Dr. Baker, did you see Gabe or Mayor Brown walked in? Did you want, yeah,
Let's go into that. Gabe, I read a really nice statement.
I'm sure you did.
And you missed it.
I know.
Let's get a picture, Gabe. Thank you for coming, and what I read you'll see on social media tomorrow, but I want to personally thank you for helping spearhead this effort. You're a wonderful partner. You're an alumni. You understand how special Walt and Vernon is, and I just thank you so much for what you do to support our school district. Thank you.
I wish I could take credit for it, but I signed the checks. It was these people that didn't work, so credit to them.
Gabe, I'm calling these our Tradition of Excellence Awards, and these are the first ones we're giving out. So thank you very much. And these are actually the Chromebooks that those funds purchased. So let's take over here to the picture.
Welcome to come back to the March meeting if you want. We can do it again. Hear it all over again. Okay, moving into recommended board motions. First is the approval of the minutes.
I'll make it.
First by David. I had a couple of things, Carrie. Several times within there, you referred to me as Miss Megan Turner.
Oh.
Yeah. I was like, who's this, me or David? I'm not real sure. So it was in there 2 or 3 times. I saw it 2 or 3 times on the first page or two, so
Okay.
that's all I noticed, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Anybody else?
It's the only thing I saw.
Okay, you saw it too, okay. Because I was like, wait, is that me or is that David? I had to like stop and read it again.
Okay.
Is there a second on the motion?
I'll make it.
Second by Heather. All in favor?
All right.
Motion passes 4-0. Next is approval of the treasurer report.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Discussions or questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by David. All in favor?
All right.
Motion passes 4-0. Next is approval of the order of the treasurer, the bills.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Discussions or questions? Is there a second? Second by Stacy. All in favor? All opposed?
All right.
Motion passes 3-1. Next is the approval of the amendment of the 2020-2021 school calendar. First by Heather. Discussions or questions?
I received a lot of positive feedback. Great job, everybody.
Thank you, calendar committee. Is there a second on the motion? Second by Stacy. All in favor? All opposed?
All right.
Motion passes 3-1. Next is the approval of equipment purchases from the Spectrum Enterprises for the ER-rate fiber connections.
Make it.
First by David. Discussions or questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Heather. All in favor?
All right.
Motion passes 4-0. Next is the approval of the Walt and Vernon Galveston County School District boundary line.
I'll I'll make it.
First by Heather. Discussions or questions?
Board members, I just want to be very clear and state for the record that we are not acquiring any new property. This is to document that there are certain addresses that are geographically within the borders of Gallatin County. However, those properties are a part of our school district and pay taxes to our school district. Mr. Harden's done a great job working with folks in Gallatin County and folks in Burlington to clarify this, but we just wanted this in board minutes so it is documented.
Thank you, Rob. Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by David. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Next is the approval of the 2021-2022 Student Accident Insurance Policy, Plan 4, Schedule Benefits Coverage, and Catastrophic Coverage for all students.
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussions or questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Heather. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Next is the approval of intent to participate in the Nkces for the 2021-2022.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Discussions or questions? Is there a second? Second by Stacy. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Next is the approval to participate in the Nkces English Language Program for 2021-2022. First by David. Discussions or questions? Second. Second by Stacy. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Next is the approval of the public hearing report for the Walt and Vernon Draft District Facilities Plan.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Discussions or questions? Any comments from Emmett?
I'm here for questions.
Okay. Do I have any questions for Emmett? Is there a second? Second by Stacy. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-1. Next is the approval of the BG4 for the Walt and Vernon Early Childhood Center.
Make it.
First by David. Discussions or questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Heather. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Next is the approval of the BG4, the Walt and Vernon Middle School renovation.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Discussions or questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by David. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Next is the approval of the BG4, the Walt and Vernon High School Security Vestibule.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Discussions or questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by David. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Next is the approval to enter into executive session pursuant to KRS 61.810(1)F.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Discussions or questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by David. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. We are in executive session. Next on the agenda is adjournment.
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussion or questions?
You too.
Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Heather. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. We are adjourned at 9:36.